here on the show do our very best to build up every fight. Unfortunately, not all of them live up to the lip service that we give them. Last week, we said right here the weekend was going to deliver some great fights, and gosh darn it, it did. Keep in mind the law of averages says that next time we might not be so lucky. But hey, let's enjoy the moment. I smell an MMA Live Top 5 as we look back at the Top 5 fights from the weekend. You like that, Jorge?
Absolutely.
Good sell?
Good sell.
Number 5, your guy, Alan Belcher and Jusimar Pilates. Tremendous work on the ground for Belcher, and then he brought the pain.
Yeah, I really had for Alan. It was awesome to watch him in this fight. Squirming for him when I was watching him deal with those leg locks, but he got out and pounded Jusimar to a TKO. Great fight. And you tweeted this during the fight to all of us here. Chuck Mindenhall was on the panel that week. I told you guys Belcher will shock the world. Number 4, Bellator 67, Ryan Ford and Luis Santos. In the clinch, Ford lands a big right knee. Santos goes down. A good card at Bellator 67 with this fight, Franklin, and also the one we'll see a little bit later featuring the champion Chandler.
Yeah, that was a very interesting fight, very entertaining.
And Franklin, your thoughts, of course, on this one. It's number 3 on our list. Nate Diaz, extremely impressive.
Boy, Nate looked really good, and again, it's the guy he beat that makes it even more impressive.
Now take a look at the replay here, and look at the face on Miller as he gets choked out, lucky to escape with his tongue intact. That would have really hurt his hopes of trash talking for the next fight. We go to number 2, Bellator 67, Michael Chandler, Akihiro Gono. Chandler sending a message and proving that, Corey, they got some good fighters there in Bellator.
They do. They've got some good fighters in Bellator. They could have had maybe a better opponent from them than Gono, but he showed right here that Gono had no business hitting in that cage. 16
punches in 6 seconds. Speaking of the punch strike counter, take a look at LeVar Johnson. 40 total strikes on the attack as Pat Barry became his punching dummy. Look at that.
Boy, I tell you, Pat Barry always puts on a good fight, no matter if he's the receiver or the guy throwing the punches. But LeVar was just too big, too strong, took him out of there.
Eventually got through, and this is a guy at heavyweight, Jorge, we may be hearing from in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah, LeVar's he's got a big heart. You know, he went through his problems getting shot, made it through that. He was doing well in Strikeforce before that. He's a big guy. He's got a lot of power, a lot of damage in his hands. He's got a good ground game going. He can do things.
So we saw Bellator 67, and we saw the UFC on Fox 3 card. What was your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
Well, obviously the most entertaining fight for me was Pat Barry and LeVar Johnson because they're two big guys. Michael Chandler, impressive win, but it's who he came against that takes so much away from it. Gono is done. You know, maybe he was done before the fight.
Belcher. I have to give it to Belcher. He looked outstanding. He fought a guy that a lot of guys are afraid to fight. He got caught in what this guy is notorious for doing, is ruining people's careers with his leg locks. He escaped it, and then he finished him off. Only one of the guys finished off Paul Harris. So I think Belcher looked great this weekend. I give it to him.
Good stuff. Good weekend as well. You know, we knew it was going to happen. It's official now. Dana White tweeted on Wednesday that Jon Jones will defend his light heavyweight champion against Dan Henderson on September the 1st at UFC 151 in Las Vegas. And guys, we'll have a lot of time to talk about that fight in the weeks ahead, but certainly the next big challenge lying there for Jon Jones. News out of New York, or should I say no news. Lawmakers in the Empire State will not vote in 2012 whether to legalize MMA. UFC's dreams of a card at MSG will have to wait. And Franklin, what is the latest you're hearing on this legislation in New York?
Well, it wasn't business as usual, and that's really the sad part, because normally the Assembly votes on this matter. As we know, the New York State Senate had already passed the bill to legalize MMA. It came down to the Assembly, and Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver had an informal vote at a Democratic conference and decided by show of hands it wasn't going to pass. This is where UFC Vice President of Regulations, Mark Ratner, says it's really unfair, because if they had a vote, he believes the bill would have passed on the Assembly floor.
Pretty unfortunate there. And let's not forget, one of the biggest attractions at UFC is from New York, Jon Jones. One quick news item before we part ways. King Mo Lawal has signed with Bellator and TNA, Total Nonstop Action, a wrestling promotion, proving once again the only thing better than one paycheck is two. That is all the time we have for this week. As always, a pleasure. On behalf of Franklin McNeil, Jorge Rivera, I'm Max Fredos. We'll see you next week.